false news has become all too common on social media. Unfortunately, some members of the community use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think.
In an internal memo obtained by NBC News, Sinclair executives are defending themselves, saying, quote, "The critics are now upset about our well-researched journalistic initiative focused on fair and objective reporting." Well, let's break this down. Joining me now is Kirk Clyott, a former Sinclair anchor and meteorologist, Dave Tweedell, a union rep for photojournalists and 2 Sinclair stations, and Renato Mariotti, a former federal prosecutor. Renato, I turn to you because it was your tweet that said this is the company that is going to take over Tribune soon, along with the 42 TV stations it owns. If that doesn't concern you, it should. Tell us why it should.
Well, what we're seeing is a company that is pushing a far-right agenda that is taking over more and more local TV stations across this country. And I will tell you, there are many parts of this country that might only have 1 or 2 local television stations, and people don't always realize that what they're getting is not an objective recitation of the news. These anchors that have local reputations that people have learned to trust over the years are being hijacked by a corporate agenda. And well, ultimately, what's happening is people are getting fed a one-sided propaganda, and frankly, it's a concern.
But Renato, where could it go? Because the average person could look at what those anchors said and say, I don't know, taken one at a time, it doesn't sound so bad, and don't TV anchors read scripts? So to the person out there with that response to these videos, what do you say?
Well, what I think makes this country great is having a diversity of voices. And right now we have a presidency that is trying to stifle the free press, trying to stifle the people who can be a check or challenge to the president. And here we have Sinclair Broadcasting that is very tight with the administration, where frankly, Jared Kushner and others have said that we've struck deals and we've given favorable treatment to Sinclair. What I'm concerned about is that there isn't a diversity of views. Let the anchors, if these views have so much merit, then why not let the anchors come to those conclusions on their own instead of feeding them from a corporate headquarters?
Okay, Kirk, you worked for Sinclair stations for 5 years, and I know you're not there now, and you weren't there in the last year after President Trump won the election or Jared Kushner struck this deal, but tell me what it's like inside, the editorial pressures that may exist, if they do.
Well, Stephanie, this is certainly not the first time that Sinclair has tried something like this. Right after 9/11, I was actually out of the country reporting at the time for Sinclair's flagship station in Baltimore, Fox 45 WBFF. But at that time, with great controversy and great angst in the newsroom, the anchors, a number of the reporters, they were compelled to do something very similar, reading a statement about how they supported President Bush's war on terrorism. As Renato just said, if the anchors come to these conclusions, let them come to them themselves. And a friend of mine over the weekend contacted me and they say, what is so bad about this announcement? Well, what they're doing here is, everybody knows in propaganda, the most important thing you can do in propaganda is repeat the same message over and over again. What Sinclair is doing is says, oh no, we would never do anything to bring you fake news. That's just not going to happen. It's all these other people that we're concerned about and worried about, while they are the company that more than any other, with their forced run commentaries from people such as Mark Hyman, which are extreme and I think has really gotten some people aware of stations they've recently taken over, such as KOMO in Seattle, a very progressive area. Like, what is this coming out of my television from a station that I used to know and trust? So you have these extreme commentaries coming from this station, a very cookie cutter way that is certainly not good for America. We've come so far from the days when I started in the media. It was 1975, and there used to be a rule called the 777 rule, Stephanie, which means that one company could own 7 AM, 7 FM, and 7 television stations. That gave local control. Here in Las Vegas, we had a man named Jim Rogers who recently passed away, and unfortunately his station, KSNV, taken over by Sinclair Broadcasting. This was was a man who really did serve the public as a public trustee. Instead of these must-run announcements, he had community organizations, say from the Filipino community, say from the Hispanic business community, come on the air and tell what's happening, what's important in their communities. That has been replaced from something that is important for us and into each individual market across the country by these forced, must-run, lockstep with the Trump administration commentaries. And of course, you have to remember, Stephanie, that every time you have a newsroom meeting, that is a way of advocacy journalism. What stories is that news team going to cover?
All right, well, let's talk about those newsrooms. Now, Dave, you represent the photojournalists at KOMO, which
Yes.
we just heard is the Sinclair station in Seattle, and that is at the center of all of this. What has been the talk around the station of the anchors having to read these prepared scripts?
The talk around the station is that this is of a piece with what's been going on ever since Sinclair bought that station in 2013, and it is a one-way drift towards more control from Baltimore headquarters, where Sinclair headquarters is, and less control at home. Now, it is true as of this moment, they have not affected the local broadcast, but as you saw in that video that went viral over the weekend, where you see all of the stations saying the exact same thing, that is the real threat. Political issues come and go, structural changes are forever, and the FCC has allowed this monster that will be the new Sinclair after they pick up the Tribune stations. They're going to double their audience reach. Never before in American history has any station, any owner been allowed to have any more than 39% reach of the country. Because of a gimmick passed by the FCC, they will now have 72% reach. And because of another gimmick passed by the FCC, the door is open towards a national broadcast. I'm far more concerned, and our members are far more concerned about a national broadcast just supplanting local news altogether and getting rid of the services that local news provides. That is what has been, that door has been opened by the FCC, and that is really troubling.